Looks better than the kitchen.
Good morning. You're listening to WPVM FM in Asheville, North Carolina, 103.7 on the dial. This is the BLAINESWORLD Show, heard each Wednesday here at 9 a.m. And you can also watch on WPVM's Facebook page. That's what you're watching now. This is a special Facebook Live edition. And we're speaking with Jeff Catanese. And Christy, I'll help me with the last name. I'll work on it.
Montesdeoca.
Okay, Christy M. Both from Attic Salt, and talking about an upcoming show that's going to be at Attic Salt in the near future. And before we do that, what I typically like to do, Christy, and I think this is the first time you and I have talked on the air. Just going to guess, I think 73 times, Jeff, or is it 74?
A lot.
Okay, but anyway, Christy, what I typically ask is when I meet somebody for the first time on the air, you grew up where?
Actually, I grew up around here. I grew up in Asheville, but when I hit 18, I left. So, and I moved back here, I think 8 years ago now, home about something like that.
And when you were growing up in the Asheville area, did you always know you wanted to be an actor?
I don't know that I always knew I wanted to be an actor, but I think my first taste of theater at 12 years old. So yeah, been doing it for a while.
You remember the play?
Yes, I do.
It was a porn shoot.
It was not. It was North Buncomb's community theater production of Music Man.
Okay, do you remember the role?
Henry Hill.
Extra 12-year-old girl, towns girl.
Well,
Yes.
I want you to keep that in mind, Christy, because I made this offer to Jeff, and I'll repeat it on the air again, Jeff. But I have this great idea for a fundraiser, Christy, for Attic Salt or anybody else, is that everybody would repeat their very first role. You do like a short for the extra or something else. Wouldn't that be fun if everybody would just do their very first thing, especially because you were in that show? Do you have a videotape of it?
Oh, no.
So
I don't think video existed back then.
Exactly. So nobody has a copy of their very first show. So I just thought that'd be fun to have everybody do it, the first show, and then you have a permanent record of it. So you did it at 12 years old, and did you continue acting after that?
Mm-hmm. I did.
In school?
I continued to do, school, community theater and school productions all the way through.
Then you told me your background was kind of interesting in that then you came back, and I met you shortly after you came back to Asheville and started acting again. Was that what happened?
I didn't really stop. I went to Chicago, to Loyola University, and majored in theater arts and Spanish as a double major, and then continued to do theater up there. But then when I moved back, I did take a break. I had kids. I had lots of things going on. It's not easy. They don't like it when you bring crying babies to rehearsal. Actually, it's a lot easier now. People are a lot more open to that now than they were 14 years ago, to be sure. But so, yeah, I took a bit of a break and came back and started into theater here. But I didn't ever quit completely doing theater. So
Now that's Jeff, the same thing. I don't know if I ever asked you on the air, Jeff, but I know you certainly as an actor and a director. When did you start acting though?
I got bit by the bug when I was in 6th grade. So how old was I?
that was 12. We're
I
twinsies.
was 12. Okay. So yeah, I got a part in my first play at school and loved the attention and go figure. And I've been doing it ever since. Did some high school stuff and then community theater stuff. And this is all back in Massachusetts. And then I moved to New York for 16 years and did a lot of really terrible off Broadway stuff. And then just decided I didn't like the grind and came here to Asheville.
What was your first play?
My first play was called Birth of the Planets. It was very educational.
And same question I asked Christy. Do you have a copy of videotape of that one?
I do not have a videotape, same as Christy. I don't think video existed. There was a guy in the back cranking a camera, I think.
That was actually the crank to keep the lights on.
Think about that, Jeff.
We got
Seriously,
electricity now.
as an Addict Salt fundraiser, I just think that'd be a lot of fun if everyone would come back and do their first 5 minutes of their first role or something.
I'll give it some thought. I only want people like Christy who were background actors, and only if they
I
sang
just have
the
to walk
outro
across
part.
the stage in like a cute frilly outfit and patent leather shoes.
That's
you
it.
know?
That's the whole role. That's just walk
That's actually
across.
what I wear most days anyway. So
There you go. So you still have it. That's great.
Now, Jeff, one of the things I've frankly admired about your career is that I think I first met you in Nashville. You were acting in a whole bunch of things, and then I started seeing you as a director. And the question I ask typically folks who've been actors and directors, do you have a preference of the two? Which do you prefer?
I prefer directing.
Why is that?
I don't have to learn lines.
When I said that. Christy, have you ever directed?
Christy knows that answer.
no. I mean, I had to direct in college as part of my education. It was a requirement, but that is not where I felt most comfortable. I'm very opinionated, as Jeff will tell you.
One of the things that's cool about Jeff, though, is that even though you're directing now mostly, you still, I still see you act, which I kind of really enjoy. That's a perfect segue to, I guess, Addict Salt's first show of the upcoming season. And if you care to talk about that.
Well, it's the first show in 2 upcoming seasons.
Right.
This show is called Boom. It is by Peter Sinaktrieb, and I hope I'm saying his name right. But we were actually supposed to premiere this show the weekend of lockdown. So we were ready to go up, rehearsed, good to go in 2020. And then lockdown happened. And we actually had a weekend where we were like, okay, do we open or do we not open? And we said, look, we're gonna go into lockdown. So let's just shut it down and we'll start back up in a few weeks. So
2 weeks, this will be over.
yeah, it'll all be done. It'll pass us through. So 2 years later, here we are with the same show, determined to get it up. We sadly lost 2 of our original cast members. One of them moved, and one of them is just busy with other things. And so we are good to go. I'm happy to have Christy aboard. I'm happy to have our newest actor to Addict Salt, has never performed in an Addict Salt production, Kevin May, who is a student up at Mars Hill University. And we have retained as Joe, Gabby Bailey. So she's wonderful and she's going to be great.
Jeff, for the folks who don't know what the show is, including yours truly, could you kind of give us the Reader's Digest version of it?
Well, I think appropriately enough, it's about the end of the world. It's a play that brings together Jules, who is a marine biology grad student, and Joe, who is a journalism student. And they are supposed to have a casual sexual encounter. However, it is found out very quickly that Joe has been lured to Jules' lab because Jules has discovered that it's not as
so
devious as
nefarious
that.
that
Yes,
way.
no, it's a comedy, but she has been duped. Would you say duped, Christy?
Yeah, I mean,
She has been duped there because Jules is predicting that the end of the world is about to happen. And she is meant to be the Eve to his Adam. And so Christy comes on as Barbara, who is, let's say she's the narrator who takes us through this entire story.
Christy, were you slated to be in the original version?
No, I was not. Yeah.
So you came on board in this show, and Jeff described it as a comedy. It doesn't sound real funny, driving it. What makes it funny?
I think that the it's written, I mean, the writing is funny. It is funny. I mean, it's set in a scenario that seems sort of jarring for that, but the reality is it's quite humorous. Writing, the interaction between the characters and how just their personalities and the way they conflict or how they don't see eye to eye, but the writing is quite funny. And I think the addition of the narrator is just another layer of humor on top of it. So yeah, the scenario setup sounds sort of like, what? How is that going to be funny? But it really is quite fun, quite a good script. Yeah.
Now, as an actor, how is it to get back onto stage after being away for 2 years? Is that tough to make that adjustment again?
No, it was tough to make the adjustment to not being on stage for two years. So strangely enough, I think I ended up being in the last production that Addicts Health did end up putting up, right? Yeah.
Correct. Yeah,
so
we did. That was actually
Dinner
about
with-
a year and a half ago. We did some readings over Zoom.
Oh, that's right. And yeah, we did that. And then the
and-
last full-on production was Dinner with Friends, where Jeff and I acted together.
Yeah, such a good
Absolutely.
show. But that ran the whole run, I think, right?
That ended in December of 2019. And the next show slated to go up was Boom. And I was not in that because I had just finished doing Dinner with Friends and, was moving I was just spending some more time with the family. They had a great cast set up for that. And then that didn't happen. So I ended up coming into it this time around, but that wasn't originally the plan.
Christy is actually the third actress to take on this role.
I am.
Which is funny because usually she's my 11th or 12th choice. So
Just moving up.
Scraping the bottom of the barrel when I'm in his shows, Blaine.
Well, Christy, how is it also in terms of getting back into it? You mentioned you did some things over Zoom, and I think I saw the production you mentioned. How do you feel about performing over Zoom? What was your reaction to that?
Actually, that was pretty early on in the world of doing things on Zoom. I think that it was interesting. It was challenging, but it was also kind of fun just to try something different, do a different medium, to be directed over Zoom was, in some ways the same with Jeff as the director, but in some ways very different because you'd get, no, wait, stop, hold. Okay, do that again, but have your hand about a half an inch higher when you reach out. Because you were really trying to make it look like you were connecting with the other person over Zoom. So in that regard, it was pretty interesting. But I do think there's been some huge steps in what people, we did that early on. We did that only like a month and a half into the lockdown or 2 months into lockdown.
It was a little longer than that.
Was it longer than that?
It was when people were still getting used to
But
screens.
yeah, and then I've seen some stuff done where, they've really done some incredibly well choreographed things over Zoom. So, it's always fun to take on a new challenge though. So would I prefer it over Zoom always? No, but it was.
Well, it's funny you said that because, and Jeff could appreciate this, but I actually much prefer doing the radio show or the Facebook Live show over Zoom because, again, the convenience of it. You don't have to come into the station, talk, the whole bit. I can do it anytime, day or night. And so I kind of love it. And getting guests, I can get guests from around the country. Yeah. But from a theater standpoint, and Jeff, I'll ask you this back to the directing as well. I've now started going back to some live theater, and I love it. Zoom. One or two were okay, but they didn't really cut it for me. It wasn't the same thing too. Jeff?
Yeah, and it was very difficult because I think movies and television and any medium that involves a screen is wonderful for storytelling and putting on a movie or a play. But obviously, we didn't have the budget, and everybody was gravitating towards Zoom. And to try to mount theater on a screen without a budget, without making it Hamilton on Disney Plus, was very, very difficult.
Well, yeah. And even when you see things that are on screen but are made for and directed for that are on a stage, it's not the same as seeing it live or as seeing something that is specifically written for the screen. Doesn't mean that you can't make it work, but when you have those big budget things that they have how many cameras and cut to this, and they still can do all of that. But it, even when it's a stage production put on the screen, a staged production on the screen doesn't have that same feel of that intimacy and the human connection that you feel in live theater. It just doesn't.
It's funny you said that, because the very first show I saw after lockdown, I got Disney Plus for a day, I think. I signed up just to get Hamilton, and I'd never seen Hamilton. I was in tears, because I'd been like for months without seeing anything, and to see something was so exciting for me. And then I dropped Disney the next day. But it's they can put a lot of money into it. I don't, Jeff. I think the version I saw, though, they didn't actually do that as a Zoom production. They had done a regular stage, production, and they just showed it, with 27 cameras shooting it.
Hamilton,
Yes.
you mean?
Yeah. So
they actually for that production, and this is why, over Zoom it's just not the same. For that production, they actually mounted a special production. They filmed it twice. They had specific camera positions. They knew what they wanted to do. It wasn't just,
It was
hey, we're
very
going to get
mapped
a
out.
camera, put it in the audience and film it. That's very different.
Right.
And over Zoom, that's a lot of what you get. And like Christy said, people have been doing great work over Zoom. People have been getting very creative with everything. And I've enjoyed several productions that I saw, but yeah, it's just not the same.
Jeff, let me ask you your opinion of this, and it's somewhat controversial, but I love seeing theater, even at home, if it's the full production, yet most theater isn't taped. You have to come see it. And NC Stage, to their credit, I think it's done a very good job, that they're actually showing, Christy, they're taping, they're showing the actual production. So if you can't come in there, you can actually see it at home. And that's kind of a good feeling. But some people don't like that. They said if you can't come to the theater, you have to go there. You can't watch it on TV or at home. What's your reaction to that, Jeff?
I think that's a little elitist. Like, yeah. I came to the theater. I mean, we currently are in a social position where we have to account for the fact that there are people who can't get to the theater, either due to transportation or disability or whatnot. And although they're not going to get the same experience as people in the theater do, I think to make it available is fantastic. And if we could afford the rights to broadcast, I would love to do that myself. And afford the sound system to broadcast it well. I would love to do that. However, I think to say if you're not going to the theater, it doesn't count or something like that is that's a certain amount of theater elitism, and I don't think it's necessary.
It's fun. Also, I don't know if Christy does this at home, but it's fun to also see some shows you never see before.
Absolutely.
I'd love to be able to see old shows or old musicals. Just
well, I've been watching. They have a wonderful little program. Some of them have been on PBS, some of them have been on Broadway.com, but the National Theatre in London has been broadcasting their shows, and oh man, I saw some great stuff that I would not otherwise get to see.
Right.
And I think if the theater world got a little bit off their high horse and said, hey, look, we can make this accessible, and see it as a revenue stream, there's no reason why. I mean, I want people to stay local. I want people to support local theater. But when you hear Benedict Cumberbatch is doing Frankenstein directed by Danny Boyle at the National Theater and it's taped, I'm going to watch that.
And listen,
Right. You mean you're not going to just hop on a plane, buy the ticket and hop on a plane and spend that kind of money? Right. It's unrealistic
Well-
for the majority of the population. So you are making it accessible to people. And there's nothing, there's a different experience with watching live theater on the screen and actually being in this space. But you know, you have to take into account what is realistic for people to actually get exposure to. And also, you know, it is a great way to revenue stream, like Jeff said, but it is support theater.
Yep.
The more exposed people are to theater, the more you get people to want to continue. So if you expose people in whatever way is accessible to them at the time, then hopefully at least some portion of those people will continue to go to live theater as they are able. And, you know, that becomes local theater because that's what a lot of is most accessible and realistic for your community.
And the truth is, for every generation coming up, they are used to screens. I mean, I myself got into theater through my love of film. Like, I loved movies from a very young age, and it was kind of like, wait, there's a version we can do right here, right now. Let's try that. So that's how I came to theater. And kids today growing up with so many screens, to have access to that is going to build the theater kids of tomorrow. You know, to be able to say, hey, this is a play, and they watch it on a screen and they go, how can I see this where they're right there? And then they go to the theater, and then they get the interest in how can I get involved in this and how can I do this?
Right, I can do it myself.
You both raised a good point, because I know a couple of things I really enjoyed over Zoom over the 2 years were concerts, you know, and so concerts, instead of being for only 50 people or 25, you have a couple of hundred, couple of thousand people see it. And it's a great way to expose people to expose stuff they never see. And Chris, you also said something interesting about Jeff. I'm surprised that he didn't hop over to London with his winnings from Jeopardy. You know, that after you were such a star on Jeopardy, you know, I think you'd be traveling all around the world. Where no, but he's laughing. The benefit of folks who don't recognize Jeff. So just that was so cool when you were on Jeopardy a couple of years ago. What was that?
My stint on Jeopardy was enough to pay for getting to Jeopardy. So that's how much I won.
But
So,
I was so disappointed they didn't ask you to be the host, though. You know that you weren't.
I was a little disappointed about that myself. So
You weren't
you'd think they would have come knocking. Hey, remember that guy who had second place on that one day?
Was that a fun experience, though?
Yes, that was a fun experience. Playing the game was fun. Like most television and film, it was a lot of hurry up and wait. It was a lot of sitting around. It was a lot of when's my turn, blah, blah, blah. But I did enjoy the people, and I enjoyed playing, yes.
Let me ask you, kind of wrapping down here, both of you, a little bit about what happens, first of all, with Zoom and then after Boom. I'm sorry. Boom runs when, Jeff?
Boom opens on April 29th and runs through May 15th. And it runs Fridays and Saturdays at 7:30 and then Sundays at 2:30.
Okay, if folks want to get tickets, best bet is what?
The address is atticsalt.org. That's attic like the top of a house and salt like the condiment.org.
And they can just sign up and get tickets. And
absolutely. Go to atticsalt.org. You'll see the big Boom banner right there. Go ahead and grab your tickets. They're $20 a piece. We think well worth the price of admission. And like I said, we want you to support local theater.
And Christy, question of you, after Boom runs, is there anything in the works in the future?
I do. I'm also, after this, I'm going to be working up at Parkway Playhouse up in Burnsville for a couple of shows for
What
their
are the shows?
season. Their first show of the season is Working, which is a musical.
Great.
And so I'll be involved in that. And then after that, they are doing a show called Savannah Sipping Society, and I will as well be in that production. They are doing multiple shows. Those are not their only shows, but those are the ones I will be involved in up there.
So I look forward to seeing those shows, of course. And Jeff, after Boom, what else is on schedule?
Well, we're trying to come back big. So we planned our entire season. We have our fundraiser, the Lip Sync Battle Part 2 will be coming in June. That was such a success 3 years ago. I can't believe it was 3 years ago. But 3 years ago, it was such a success that we're bringing it back. We're going to have a lot of fun with that again. In July into August, we have a show called Accidental Death of an Anarchist, which is a play by Dario Fo, a wonderful farce about, again, another serious subject, police corruption. So you can sense a theme in where I go and where my mind goes. Is it a serious subject? And they turned it into a comedy. Then we have in September, we're doing a show called Cry It Out by Molly Smith Metzler, who wrote a very wonderful play about new motherhood and class as it applies to new motherhood, one deciding, should I go back to work? One saying, I can't go back to work, etc. And then for our Christmas show, instead of going with the standards like A Christmas Carol or something else, we have had our good friend and local playwright, Rodney Smith, pen an adaptation of Santa Claus Conquers the Martians. And that is going to be a lot of fun, I think. If you love campy movies or if you hate Christmas, you will love Santa Claus Conquers the Martians.
And if Rodney's doing it, it's going to be a lot of fun. And just I'll ask Christy, so the lip sync, are you going to be involved in that? You know yet?
Not that I'm aware of.
No.
I'll just encourage folks, remember when Jeff
There you go.
put this on a couple of years ago, Christy, I thought it was the stupidest idea, and Jeff's had a bunch of stupid ideas, but just so much fun, Jeff. It was really just such a blast. And so I encourage folks to get to that. I encourage folks to get to all the other good stuff Attic Salt's doing. And again, if Christy's going to be in something, you want to see that at Parkway Playhouse as well. So I'm really excited to be seeing you guys almost in person. You know, I think I've bumped into Jeff once in person in 2 years. So I look forward.
Yes.
And Jeff, one final time, the website, if you would.
atticsalt.org. ATTICSALT.org. O-R-G.
Okay, I look forward to seeing you both at Boom in just a couple of weeks, and so it should be a lot of fun. And so be in person. Thanks, guys. That was great.
Thank you, Blaine.
Thank you, Blaine.